This talk is aimed at understanding or unraveling, shall I say, the Delhi government and the union government tiff. Well, it might be more appropriate to call this the AAP BJP tiff because the restlessness that has shown time and again, either side, has more to do with the long-term concerns of survival and extinction. This is explained using game theory. Well, no rocket science aspect of game theory that we are going to talk about, and therefore this talk is for one and all. Before we start, one disclaimer shall I put. This isn't intended to be a pro-Modi or a pro-Kejriwal, nor an anti-Modi or an anti-Kejriwal talk. This is rather about the forecast of the political situation that shows emerging in the future based on the history of spats that we have seen between these two parties of the last 2 years, 1 year more so. Two terms that I would like to introduce before we start: minimax and maximin. Minimax is about getting your opposition to score as little as he can, given that he has a few strategies to play against the few that you have. It's about pushing him to the core, to the wall, so that he cannot score more than the bare minimum. Maximin, on the other hand, is just the opposite. You trying to score more, and your rival, who has quite some strategies at play too, is pushing you into playing that strategy which will fetch you the minimum payoff. Now, in the current context, the AAP government in Delhi, in the backdrop of its manifesto and mandate, must deliver high. Critics might call it compulsion, the well-wishers commitment, but irrespective of the term connoted to the action, AAP knows very well that with a rather short credit history that it has, and with the political equation charged the way it is, it will be doomed to oblivion if it were to not deliver on the promises and expectations it has set. The centre, for its part, knows very well that the concepts for which AAP shows standing for, good and clean governance, when delivered in entirety, can actually shake or have a severe repercussions on the overall political setup. This might in one swoop raise the spine of the overall setup, comprising of loopholes and shortfalls that the political community of this country has made merry of post-independence. Now, in this scenario where one party has a perfect launchpad for stars if it delivers, as against the other that can be doomed to dust if it does not obstruct and let this show go on, the inevitable is now a matter of when and not if. And that inevitable reads, the centre will dislodge the AAP government in Delhi sometime. Any time in between July and December 2017. I repeat, in between July and December 2017. The timing assumes significance for a number, and even more important, variety of reasons. Whereas the AAP government, after some initial hiccups, has managed to get its act together to quite an extent in flaunting its achievements, and this includes the ones it could realize in short term, it will in all likelihood come all the stronger around 3 quarters from now, and that is sometime around March to June 2017. That will be the time when the minimum of 2-year gestation period projects will start going live. The opposition, the ruling party at the centre, has so far been vociferously downplaying the AAP claims as mere promises on paper. But it knows very well that this downplay cannot go on forever. Once these projects, and many of which are now in the planning and execution phases, go live and show on ground, the situation may, in a very quick span of time, show slipping away from the centre. Public may not be any more interested in buying the downplay arguments that it has done to an extent so far. What options then does the centre have? For the centre, letting the AAP government complete its full term could be an invitation for long-term trouble, as we have just heard. On the other hand, dismissing the state government that actually amassed a massive public mandate would have its own share and probability of public outcry, and therefore the centre's payoff in either strategy game would show a glaring negative. It is set to lose no matter which strategy it plays. The question then for the centre would be which of the two strategies bears a smaller loss. Now obviously when either of the strategy is bearing a loss, you would have to pick the one which is bearing a smaller loss, and the answer to this question would be the term we discussed a while ago, maximin. Picking up that strategy that minimizes its losses. And in this game of strategies, the centre will do good for itself to dislodge the AAP government in 2017. The payoff matrix shows the cell corresponding to the deliver high on part of AAP and obstruct on part of centre to be the Nash equilibrium of the game. Now here's an account of how the equilibrium, this Nash equilibrium, emerges out of this game. The focus on health and education by the AAP government is quite likely to show some signs of change for good by the time the AAP government enters its third year. And we are not talking about that situation in which it continues and the centre does not bulldoze it. This, based on the trend, shows hypothetical, but we will just talk about this to compare the situation when it would not be bulldozed and it does great. And then we'll come to the practical situation that it looks like when it will be raised down. Now on the health front, many more mohalla and polyclinics would be operational by then, and this as well will impact a sizable middle class population for good. The drive to clean the education system, the CCTV, the Wi-Fi, there are a lot of things which AAP has been talking about, and it's quite likely that all of these will start, some of them will in fact show altogether in 2017. Now there also have been instances of infrastructure projects that were initiated by the previous government and which AAP claims to have completed within time and within budget. Well, it doesn't really make much sense analyzing as to what their intent has been. Has it been, and it's possible to downplay or underrate the previous government as corrupt laggards as against AAP itself, which is doing great. But irrespective of what intention it might have, one thing that shows on ground is that the plan, do, check cycle is at work. And unless this juggernaut of change, as the AAP government will definitely aim at showcasing itself as, is halted, it may mean mayhem for the huge political fraternity of this nation that has feasted in irregularities and inefficiencies. With all these changes and developments, a governance model will show itself, and in this age of quick communication, this model will show across other states very soon. There might be quite some bias too. Now, you have to show and present better and viable alternatives. A mere downplay by rivals cannot work, and therefore the other political parties of this nation will have to pull their socks soon if this finds buyers across other states, which in all likelihood it will. Now, with a credit history to show, the AAP government will then, in its fourth year, get more aggressive. It will, in its battle with the centre, find itself occupying a more suitable terrain. The better terrain can be attributed to the fact that the BJP has not been doing quite great in the assembly elections over the last 1 year. The 2016 results have been at most mediocre, and the 2017 UP election, well, going by the present trend, does not show very encouraging signs for BJP. This is going to be the real test, and if BJP does not pass this UP test in 2017, it will be a case of mere formalities left. And with this low morale, it may not be left with enough artilleries to actually fight with the by then beaming with confidence up. For the center, the only way this juggernaut of change is halted, in line with taking the bull by horns, is through use of Article 356. The sooner, the less damaging for the center. A constitutional crisis that calls for center's intervention to protect the failing machinery of the state will be the center's line. Depending on a few other factors, a huge public outcry against the center cannot be ruled out. But considering the huger loss if the AAP government is allowed to complete its tenure, strategically the center might not be left with any option but to play this. The strategy wing of the BJP will have this line to toe. By outpowering the AAP government in its infancy and hoping that their infighting and greed for power across states and the nation overall sound their own death knell, the BJP must play the Article 356 strategy if it were to keep its chances alive and afloat in the long term. The party think tank will internally concede that this option would be a bitter pill to take, but with the other alternative, that of letting the AAP government complete its full tenure, costing as much and severe as amputation, the former option would be the one to go with. The fact that the desperate Congress will sniff some chance of re-emergence, if at all, from the knot it currently is at, will make it support this move at heart, even when delivering lectures on assassination of federalism in public. Well, what options then does AAP have? Overwhelming majority it might show and sound today in the Delhi Assembly, but the coming days might see the AAP government in Delhi haunted by two Ds: disqualification and defection. The CM himself declared that he foresees disqualification of a handful of MLAs, and together with defection that is almost certain to be crafted, a situation that calls for center's intervention to take over the failing machinery of the state is a strong possibility. Whereas disqualification will be that one D which AAP might not find so easy to overrule. Mind you, the center has the complete state machinery at its disposal. AAP will actually do good to guard its flock together right from the word go and ensure zero defection. Because defection in politics is like a quicksand. It does not take long before it slips and falls completely. AAP's understanding of the overall game may also lead to some strange and interesting things in the coming months. Sensing that it does not have so long a tenure or so many years of its legalized tenure to complete all of its works, it might show some fireworks. This might resemble the fireworks of a team batting second in a rain-affected match, which is now chasing a revised target. And therefore a cameo from AAP is not ruled out. We may in the coming months see some very popular work initiated by AAP which might show results, which would show results in a quick span of time, and this would be to ensure an insurance for the next election whenever it comes. Going forward, overall, the nation's tryst with the anti-corruption movement gave birth to the Aam Aadmi Party. Where from here is the question this nation asks and awaits for the answer with bated breath. A lot other unseen now and born later factors may and will influence the strategy and action of players involved in this game. Until the dawn of 2018, therefore, the moves made by the strategic players assume significance, perhaps more than the political developments of free India over the last 7 decades all put together have. One thing that has haunted this nation the most over the last 7 decades has been corruption. We are perhaps closer today than we have been any time over the last 7 decades. at catching this devil by its neck. May we wish ourselves all the best. Thank you.